All right.
Here we are. That's it. That's what I got. Okay.
I think that was good energy coming in.
That's good energy.
It was
you
like
know what
sneaking
I mean?
in. I don't think you have to be.
There's a lot of high energy.
I think that over the years we've learned
There's
that
too
you
much
don't
energy,
have
if you
to
ask me.
stampede right away in.
No, you don't.
things.
You don't.
Not at all.
There's a certain amount of
Consideration.
walk down.
Yeah.
We're going to walk down.
And ramp it up.
Yeah, there you go.
Walking down and ramping up.
Old bull, young bull thing. Let's walk down. Right? So we're going to talk about gigs today. We're just going to talk about gigs. I just got back from Ireland.
Talk about gigs.
Yeah.
You went abroad.
I went abroad, Wales, then Ireland.
What was the first thing, your first stop, you told me in Wales?
We stopped at the Wrexham Stadium.
Like Ryan Reynolds Wrexham.
Yeah. Yeah, we stopped there to just look at it. There wasn't a game going on.
Right.
But it was cool. It was cool. Yeah. That was the first place we stopped. And I've never been, never been to England, as the song says, but that was my first time there.
Wow.
After all this time. But and you get over there and you're playing in all these different situations and I just thought, well, coming back what was on my mind is just just where you just get thrown into these places to play, you know what I mean, and have to fight. What's the worst gig you ever had?
My first one was probably the worst.
Yeah.
That was the very first time we played was in Shamokin Dam, I think.
Yep.
And
that sounds right.
On the old trail.
Yep.
And it was one of those things where I had my brand new shiny bass. I had this new Fender kind of modded thing.
Yep.
And it was kind of fancy. It had the tone controls and something had come loose. And the first gig, I think the first song or something, or the second song, just stop making noise.
Yeah.
So then I'm trying to solder this thing on stage while you guys are just playing.
Right.
And a friend of ours, Todd Egger, showed up and he's like, I think I can go get a bass.
You go find a bass.
So he came back and I don't know how fast he drove, but he was back pretty quickly.
With a bass?
With a bass, this bass, and the action was a mile high.
Yeah, sure. But it was a bass.
But it was a bass.
Yeah.
And we hammered onward.
Yeah, right. Well, playing over, I remember that gig. I remember the soldering iron on stage while we're vamping or whatever. Trying to get sitting there waiting for it to heat up.
MacGyvering the bass.
I think this side is louder.
Yeah.
Trying to keep people occupied while we get.
And I'm I was excuse me, I'm trying to work over here.
That was good, but yeah, it was when not this time. Last time we went over to Ireland, we're in Galway, and we're just standing and the thing about the U.S. is people don't just break out into song
right
in the middle of a bar for no
Ever.
reason. This happens. This is pretty commonplace. You know what I mean? Somebody just starts singing something.
Yeah.
And then this guy starts singing in Gaelic.
Wow.
Yeah. This guy starts singing in Gaelic, and then I'm just kind of enjoying listening to him. But then Nike, of course, goes, well, he sings. You know what I mean?
Here we go.
So then, so then I'm over there do I have to sing in Gaelic? Because I do not know what I'm doing. But yeah, great. You find doing gigs over time. You just it's dependent on where you're at. It's always different. We've gotten ourselves in such a if you're Pearl Jam or you're Foo Fighters or you're Radiohead or you're Miley Cyrus. Every game's a home game.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Everybody's there to hear your tunes and your stuff and. Even to this day, we're playing a gig or something, you're playing to people, some of them have heard your music, some of them haven't, and you're trying to work things into the set and do things that you can kind of keep anybody's tension.
Right.
And I think that's what makes a great bar band.
Yeah, you got to learn how to kind of read the room and react and be part of it.
Yeah, and you can't let too much time go on where nothing's happening, that someone that doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know the history of whatever is going on stage, would something to keep them engaged, as well as the people that are old fans, so there's a lot of that kind of thing that goes on. Probably one of my worst gigs, I said, for me was one of my worst gigs was a guy called me that I had met at another show, and he said, "I want you to come up and play at my place." You know, it was like it was just like it was like a business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he said, "I want you to come up and play at my place. Just play an acoustic set. Just play for an hour." And this is like December 23rd or something, and I don't have any gigs. You know, like I don't have any gigs like on Christmas Eve. So I go up there and really good guy, and everybody there that worked there were really cool, really good people, but it was a clock shop, right? So he puts me in the middle of the clock shop, and like every one of those friggin' clocks is set to a different time, so they're going off all the time in different keys. So you're like singing
today,
ding, bong, bong.
Clocks.
Yeah.
Bret Alexander.
You're singing
different kinds of chimes.
Yeah, you're like, any day now I shall be boom. You know, and it's like, but like, there's not one going off at a time. There's like 30 of them going off at any given second. You know.
That's
all
amazing.
In different keys.
That is amazing.
All in different keys.
That is,
and so there were, that was a good one. That was a solo gig. Yeah. This is like me, Dustin and I, who I have to have on here. Like Dustin and I got into like a contest online one day where we're like sending pictures of our worst
gigs.
And he had this one where it was like they had this whole. It was like must have been a kid's birthday party or something. They had this whole background like. Of Finding Nemo where the kids could put their heads through. And he's like sitting there, you know, all rocked out. There's like no way to recover. No way to recover.
There's just like no way to start or recover. Start, maintain, or recover.
You know, the kid stuffs his head out like through the friggin' dory fish. You know,
that should be a spring beam.
Yeah. When I remember, it was like we played in Pittsburgh. It was nice. I mean, it was like that Icy Light amphitheater we were playing.
Yeah.
And it was like a Three Stooges festival. Remember that one?
Yes.
And we're playing at this Three Stooges festival.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like all these like, you know, bald middle-aged men doing the curly shuffle, like before we played. Do you remember this?
I do now. You block it out.
You blocked it out. You blocked it out.
We talked about that. Now that you say that, like that exact thing.
Really?
Yeah, like
the guy that whoop whoop whoop, whatever that. The curly shuffle was that guy. Yeah,
we got to go on there and play Angeline.
Yeah, we got to go out there and play. You know what I mean?
They're like doing the curly shuffle. We got to get out a mandolin and play Fear of Falling.
Right on. Yeah. Then you got to like go out there and like do something halfway serious, and like just those dudes doing the curly shuffle.
Yeah.
And then it was like that time that we did like. And this was like puppet show shit, you know. It was like Spinal Tap puppet show. We were opening for that guy. We were opening for that guy that had he was like this sort of like death-defying acts, but he was like, remember this dude? And he was like 70 or 75 or whatever. He was like, and he had like the Evel Knievel suit on, you know, with the you know, like the V with his, you know, like the sort of an Elvis kind of suit,
right.
You know, like with his you know, with his kind of like his gut hanging out and stuff, and he like, and I just remember, and they called him the human sandwich because they like put nails on top of him behind him and then like smashed cinder blocks. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Remember that?
Yes.
And he opened for us.
He opened for us.
No. We opened for him.
We opened for him.
He was the headliner. The human sandwich. Remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but the part I remember is like, he walks on coals and then he walks on glass, right?
Right.
But the grand finale was like put these friggin' big ass beds and nails underneath him and on top of him and smashed.
Yeah.
With sledgehammers, they smashed
blocks.
They smashed blocks.
Yeah.
Over top of him.
Yeah.
And he. I remember afterwards, us standing out backstage talking to him, and he's got like all these like rusty nail holes, like through his skin, and they're like bleeding and shit. And like we're like, didn't that hurt? And he's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that hurt.
That hurt like hell,
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a lot to talk about in the van after that show.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a really good one.
That was a good one.
I mean, I have a lot of pride for having open for that guy.
That's on my highlight reel. Yeah. So, but yeah, human sandwich.
Wow, the human sandwich.
Yeah, that was a good one. And the other one, this is like not a gig, but it's like I just been like, coming back from over there, and you just kind of start thinking about like, when things go like being on the road or playing gigs or just kind of just being out there, like when things go sideways, like you think about, that's like where the good stuff is, you know what I mean? Like over time. And I was telling that, I was writing a blog the other day and I was telling that story of like the time, like you and I are like, we're in Green Bay, that Green Bay story, like we're playing like some bratwurst festival.
Yeah.
Right?
Again.
Yeah, it was like a bratwurst festival.
Well, we were opening for a bratwurst.
We were opening up for an actual ring of.
Yeah, just a ring of bratwurst.
There was with sauerkraut.
Yeah, I mean, it was on fire, but.
Yeah.
We're still opening. No, but we had some time off.
Yeah, we did.
Like a day off.
But that made me think of another story, so I'm gonna go there. So this time this is true. Like we're playing this bar and we get into this bar and we're like we just like released whatever record, maybe one of our early records, Dimes in a Coal or something, one of those early ones. And we're in Stroudsburg and we show up and we go to the radio station and we do an interview and they're like, oh, your new record, are you guys excited? We're going to play 3-4 tracks, and there's like this whole thing. And we're like, well, we do that. We're like thinking, oh, this is going to be really great. It's going to be a good night. And we show up at the club and like the place is freaking packed. You know what I mean? Place is like jamming and we're like, all right, we're starting to put some money into promo. Yeah. We're starting to get somewhere here. Yeah. And like right in front of the stage is like, however long, like sort of table of catering with like penny pasta and instant mashed potatoes, right?
Not penny pasta.
Did I say that?
No, right. No. I'm just gonna step out and say it.
Okay, penny, whatever.
Well, no, I was trying to riff. Sorry, didn't work.
Yeah. You came off as elitist because I just said something stupid.
I did.
But it's okay. It's all right.
Look, everybody's a little bit of a sometimes.
It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But anyhow, so there's like this instant mashed potatoes and pasta across this whole thing, and the people are eating and the place is packed and they're excited and they're dancing around to a DJ or whatever. And it's like they take away, and we couldn't even get on stage until. The catering was done. We had to wait.
We had to
wait. So we're like, like waiting. And we're going to get our stuff on stage as soon as they're done having their pre-party for the night. And like they take away the instant mashed potatoes and the pasta, and the place clears. There's like 4 people there.
It's like for us. It's a tumbleweed. We're up there. Straight shot to the stage.
We're up there. And it's like, oh my God. It got better as time went on, but I remember
we were like, this is going to rock.
This is going to rock. This is going to be a great night. Yeah.
It rocked us. But as soon as that food was gone,
the food's gone. Yeah. So that was the end of that. That was the end of that gig. But these are the things that happen Come on, give me another one.
Okay, well, trying to piggyback on that one. We kept doing these like tours where you go around the Midwest to a bunch of different cities. So you try to kind of do like a 3-week run and try to hit these places a few times, or in a 3-week period, you do it again for 3 weeks and again for 3 weeks, just to kind of build some. And this was not exactly one of those, but we were in the Midwest in Minneapolis, and we got routed there in like February. And yeah, I mean, there's a reason when you go to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and you see the buildings connected together over the streets, because it's like minus 30 or something. Yeah. So we're there in February, and we're going to play First Avenue. First Avenue. And we're like, man, this is going to be legendary. Princess Club. You know, we get in there, and we get like this kind of like a little tour, and it's just fantastic. We're just like, and I forget what Berger was talking to somebody, and they're like, okay, no, we actually got to walk down the street a little bit. You guys are in the punk club in the back. Yeah. But it was epic. But we were. I mean, there was like a foot of snow or something.
Yeah, you know? That was 7th Street entry. 7th.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
7th
Yes.
Street entry.
Yeah.
That was where that was. Yeah. Hey, you know, I mean, that's cool too.
Yeah, it was
where the
cool,
replacements
but it was just like one of those little moments where they're like, you guys are actually, this is better for you over here. You not so much with the bigger stage.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that night in particular, like Prince was in that night, because it was like, because there was like the two clubs. I think you probably remember. You have to remember this, because he was there. Yeah, because we were playing in 7th Street entry, and then over in First Avenue, which is where Purple Rain was filmed, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the performances. Yep. So like De La Soul was playing over there. And I remember him being in there. Yeah, he was in there with his crew, watching them play. Yeah. So yeah, that was neat. That was neat.
I kind of blacked out about that.
Really?
Don't
you remember?
I don't know. I don't even remember.
I remember him sitting there with like just his little crew.
Really?
Watching De La Soul play.
Was I soldering something on stage?
Your bass was off. Your bass was gone. Your bass was done. Yeah, no doubt.
So wait a minute, back up. So this gig story, adjacent story, is you cut to you observing Prince, observing De La Soul.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Close as I got to Prince.
Okay, let's just take a moment. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was not bad.
So I'm 2 away from Prince. You're all 2 away from Prince.
Yeah, steps away.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I just, I think that the gig thing, I liked where you started with the conversation, because like right now we have kind of like we're playing to our home crowd for most of all the Badly shows we do. Yeah. And so when you contrast that to like, hey, I'm going to go on this trip and do this thing and just throw everything to the wind, and you're just kind of not even prepared. You're prepared because you just done it for so long, and you know a lot of songs, you retain a lot of songs, you can read a room and blah, 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 and you and Nike are great together.
Yeah, sure.
But it's still throwing yourself out there to do all those things, because, you do have to manage a couple of things, getting around and everything. And it's just in a 180 from the other experience. And I guess you see some artists do that, where they're going to play a club or something, or rehash, and you see comedians do all the time. But but the gig where it gets to be formatted, we were like, we bust on our buddy Jack Pyers, for like he was in an 80s like heavy rock band, and Dirty Looks, you would have like the same set every single night, and a lot of bands do that, and certainly pop acts. Yeah. But yeah, having that wild bit, and we don't do that in the Badleys. There isn't the same set every night. It's just curated for the day. But still, we know all the songs, and we know how it's going to go down generally, and all that kind of stuff. And to throw yourself out to the wolves is kind of like a 2-week study. It's a little master's course in.
I mean, anything like that. I mean, anything like that. I mean, it's like, I know like guys that do this. It doesn't really matter what style they do. You know, like you can kind of geek out about like somebody that can write a set list. You know what I mean? Like, somebody like a Springsteen comes to mind. You know, just like he can play that long and kind of have you walk with some sort of singular feeling. And whether you like him or not, you know, there's a very, very big art form to being able to write a set list that you can kind of pull people in. Like in our case, you know, when we were like early on, you know, we're kind of like, you know, we did a record, then we did another record, then we, you know, and you're just kind of like playing these songs that nobody knows.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're trying to intersperse them with activities or some sort of like, you know, like whether it be, you know, you're breaking into like some other cover in the middle of a song, or you got some sort of extended solo, or you got some worked out epic thing that you do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just to kind of keep people's interest
like points of interest throughout the set, whether they're with you or not. You know.
Right. You know. Because then you're getting into that gigging thing where it's like if you're just playing original music, you're like, okay, mid tempo song,
right?
3 songs, you got 3, maybe 4, and you're going to lose everybody.
Right.
You know, no matter how good the songs are.
Exactly.
Unless there's like some sort of, you know, I don't know, maybe it's kind of a folk thing or something. If everything was like really lyrically driven and people were seated and
exactly.
You know, there was that kind of a vibe. You know, you might be able to get away with something like that. But you know, like for like a bar show, you gotta put it together in such a way that people can move.
Well, and I think that's the most important because you can see right away whether people are digging it or not.
Yeah,
you know, and it doesn't matter what you think about your songs, or like, are they digging it or not? And that's generally the buck stops here at the end of every process in the music biz. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And you know, some things it doesn't matter if people dig it or not.
I remember like, you know, when we got our first record deal and you're talking to the A&R and label presidents and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it was like, it's just so stupid, but it's in Almost Famous even, you know what I mean? Like they even said that it's like, what, you know, basically what's the formula of you saying, I want to sign somebody, you know what I mean? And it's like great songs and a rock star, you know, Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page. You know, it's like this just classic format of great songs and a rock star.
Yeah.
And that's what they're all looking for. We're all
usually the X factor with the band is just those two things.
Yeah. Somebody out in front that can command attention and great tunes that are memorable.
Yeah.
And a band to play them.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part, and you know, because everybody thinks their stuff is good, you know.
Yeah.
And most of it, you know, doesn't matter who you are.
You're subjective, and you put your whole being into it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you don't. I don't know. It's you don't know. You don't know until you till you reveal it to the world.
Yeah. And people latch on to, like many other things, they latch on to things that you just would never think they would. You know, like the tone of this thing, or a part of a verse that was whatever, not the most important part you thought, or whatever.
And they have different content. Like, I mean, I remember, like using Ireland as an example, you know, like you play into an Irish audience, you know, like there's like, or an English audience or whatever. Like, you know, I just first time for me, you know, I'm not in Ireland, but you know, playing in the UK a little. You know, like actually, we kind of were leaving there, you know, when we were playing, you know, but like, you know, there's like that sort of like football culture, you know, adds a different level to things, you know, that isn't in the States. The Irish love to sing along.
There's a lot of solidarity that doesn't exist because like the States is very much more individual. Like, I'm doing this thing at this thing that I paid for, as opposed to let's all just freaking get behind something and, you know, get hammered and talk about, you know, and go talk about football or whatever it is.
Yeah, right on.
Or in music in the bars. I mean, you know, that Ireland is an island, and you will find that they're probably much more ingrained than people that move around every, you know.
I mean, you got to think, like, I mean, culturally, like those guys, I mean, like the whole Irish, like they fight so far above their weight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, what is it, like 7 million people? It's the size of Indiana.
Right.
There's a lot more shit going on there than there is in Indiana.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Is my point.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, like as far as music, I mean, it's just people loving music and
right.
and loving that whole sort of social thing. And not that they don't love that in Indiana. I'm just saying there's just like a very, very large, just a concentration. Yeah. Of and then you kind of you get your head around what that kind of audience is going to like, and then you kind of give it to them, and it's filtered through your own thing. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty interesting. But I mean, I was thinking about that time when we were. I mean, this is a legendary story, but we were over in China that time. We're playing in China, and it's like we're playing these gigs, and it's like, well. They're asking, we're asking, like Pete's asking the interpreter, is there anything that the Chinese really like that I can try live? Okay,
by the way, just back up for a second. We like, the best part of that thing is that we're put out onto this kind of to play at this festival. We're put out onto a kind of a big concrete slab kind of thing, but it was only like 2 feet off the ground or something.
Yeah, it wasn't that high.
It wasn't that high. And then they had what the equivalent of like PV-SP3 speakers or something. Yeah. That was the PA system.
Well, it was like you were in the round. It was like being in a boxing ring, basically.
Right. Exactly.
It was basically like playing in a boxing ring. People were all around you.
Yeah.
So we're doing that, and Pete said, well, to one of the interpreters, like, well, what do they like? Because we never played China before. We don't know how to play to a Chinese audience. And he's like, well, they really like sing-alongs, right? Right? He said they really like to sing along. They love karaoke. They love to sing along. So Pete, we playing a song.
All true.
He wasn't messing with us.
Great advice.
It was great advice.
Yeah.
So Pete's out there. We get to the middle of the song, we break down, and he's like, and he goes, yeah, we're like just kind of vamping away, and Pete goes, la 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 la, and holds the mic out, and they just look at him. They don't do anything, He's like, maybe they didn't hear me. So they just la 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 la, and it just, and there was like no reaction whatsoever. So he's like, so he aborts, and we finish the song. We finish the gig, walk off stage. And the guy goes, well, he goes, man, that didn't work at all. That was awful. That wasn't any good at all. He said, it's like, what did I do? He said, they have any problem pronouncing certain words or anything like that? You know what I mean? Yeah. And the interpreter's like, well, really anything with an L or an A. so it's like the worst possible thing.
And Pete goes, good to know. You just have to do another episode of Gig Stories with Pete.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a good laugher, man.
Yeah.
He's a good laugher, too.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He will just, and he can contribute a lot better than I can.
Yeah. But that was good. That was epic. This was another one. They were like talking about playing overseas, and then we get asked to play at this like outdoor thing for a bunch of dignitaries, right? And they set up the PA system for us to play, but they set it up 75 yards away,
pointed at us.
Like the monitors were 75 yards away. So by the time you sing a note, it takes a while.
It took a while
for that note to get to you.
Yeah, right? That took a minute. Yeah, and, it was really, there was a real kerfluffle of
and we knew it was going to be a problem. So we tried to we tried to like work out this headphone system with like Rockmans and stuff, whatever we had that we could, and we all kind of stood around and like now like the smartest thing we should have done is just turned on the record and jumped around, because
exactly,
that was. We should have just lip synced.
We should have probably just done that.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
Because we like really wanted to like have integrity, the authentic in play.
That was a silly move. We're
trying to be authentic.
We were trying to be authentic.
If you ever read like Butch Walker's biography.
Yeah. Okay,
I forget what it's called. I read it. Something about a bullet belt or something. But anyway, like it was like same exact experience. Like played China. I mean, it's like the same stuff. It was hilarious. It was like very familiar, very like the whole like like in the early '90s.
Yeah.
Same time period.
Yeah.
And he was playing there,
having a rock band come over and play your festival.
And I remember like that was one time we like and we like with Butch Walker was like, I remember because he was playing, what was the name of that band? It became the Marvelous Three, right?
Yeah.
But it was something, the Floyds.
The Floyds became the Marvelous Three.
Yeah. Or at least a couple of them.
Yeah.
And like I remember upstairs in Augusta, Georgia, playing a club with nobody in it.
Yeah.
And like one of the first times I ever saw Pro Tools was like, Butch is sitting up there. He was in the band and him like sitting there with his laptop showing us,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean.
It was like magical.
Yeah. And he like, like basically, had a pretty big effect on American music.
He certainly has.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the type of things like everything is generally chaotic to a certain extent, but some of that chaos is kind of just unplanned fun and like that kind of stuff. Where you'd be like, well, this never would have happened.
Right on.
And so like those stretches of time where you think it's just kind of rinse and repeating, something pops up like that. Yeah. That you store away and you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the other one was when I got sidetracked, I was talking about Green Bay. It was like, that wasn't even a gig. We had a night off.
Right on.
And I just remember walking down this railroad bed looking for a bar. Yeah,
we were just like, it was kind of like a little industrially where this hotel was, but it was like it was a hotel.
Yeah.
We're like, let's go get something to eat. We're walking down. There's like traffic like 1 foot away from us and stuff,
Yeah. Well, I just remember these like railroad, like this railroad that,
we shouldn't have been on.
We shouldn't have been on.
Yeah.
And we like come up to this bar and we like walk in this bar and it was amazing. And it's just like walk in there and it's like, turns out that it's like, everybody asking us if we've met Fuzzy. It was like, how you guys meet Fuzzy? You
guys talk to Fuzzy.
Yeah. And it was like, no, who the hell is Fuzzy?
Who's Fuzzy?
Yeah. And it's like, Fuzzy is like this like Hall of Fame Green Bay Packer, Fuzzy Thurston, and he was like comes in and he has like a trach in his neck and he's like drinking and
Fuzzy was there.
He was there. He was hanging with us and he like gave a signed. I still have like a signed card from Fuzzy. He was like the coolest dude, and they had like
one of those situations where you're like, this is happening. You start looking around the room, and the entire room is just all pictures just hung right next to each other, and it's Fuzzy with everybody.
Yeah,
it's Fuzzy with freaking Sonny Rollins.
Yeah,
it's Fuzzy with the Champ. It's Fuzzy with
Fuzzy with like Jack Klugman,
and
Tony Randall,
Tony Randall, and and it's just Fuzzy's at the bar like.
Like super cool dude.
Great.
Like I read up on him. He was like this Hall of Fame Green Bay Packer offensive lineman, played in the Ice Bowl and drank 10 shots of vodka before the game to keep himself from hypothermia.
Right.
And it's just like his legendary dude. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like that stuff that happens. All right. One more story was the one that we had one of my favorites, and this one brings it full circle with the Irish, because like the Irish just, the Irish continued, whatever the word you want to say, animosity towards the British.
Right on.
You know what I mean? And like So we're over there and we're playing. Well, backing up to the origin of the story was like, we were back in the States, we're playing this gig. And we were playing this gig. It was like a trio thing. It was like you and I and Ronnie. And we were opening for this group Wishbone Ash.
Yeah.
And we decided, well, we're gonna close our show with Battle of New Orleans, because which we play. The Battlers have played for friggin' decades. Right. It was like one of my father's favorite songs. I knew that song since I was a little boy, all the words, every one of them. And, I just think of it as the song my dad always listened to,
right.
But like what I didn't think about was like the Wishbone Ash is from the UK, and the whole song's about like shooting British people.
Right.
So it's like we come off the stage and they're freaking pissed, It's like, and the monitor guy's like, an interesting closer when opening for a British band, And that was it for that.
On the other hand,
on the other side, but then on the other side, go back to Ireland, different story. Hey, you're the man. You know what I mean? It's like
one more time.
You gotta play it. You gotta play it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like I had to play it all the time.
That's awesome.
For them.
That's awesome.
So and so that was that. So it depends on where you are. But anyway, that's gigs.
I love that topic. It's kind of a deep well and a never-ending well, and you can kind of roll through a few people with that subject. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Right on.
Good enough.
This podcast was produced by Stone State Entertainment.